Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. Good parenting includes only three core principles. First, err toward positivity. Of course, that's easier said than done, especially if you've come home after a long day of work and now you have to turn to parenting. But if only aspirational, the goal should be to set a tone of kindness, setting only moderate limits, reasonable but not rigid enforcement, dispensing earned praise where possible, and criticism with a minimum of words and not with corporal punishment. And simplistic though it may sound, it also helps if your home is filled with music, whether it be humming in the kitchen or pleasant music on your stereo or Alexa. The second core principle is reason, but minimize lecturing. Of course, there'll be times you're tempted to say, because I said so. But the aspiration should be to provide a reason for what you're asking of your child. It should be brief and, often better, a question that encourages your child to come up with a reason. For example, let's say your child says, "Homework is stupid. Why do I need to compute the area of a parabola?" You might respond, "Can you think of a good reason?" If she doesn't, you might say something like, "Well, it teaches thinking skills and discipline, plus you'll get a better grade on your report card." It's brief, rational, not accusatory. One more example. Your younger child is playing with your older child's toy, and the older one yells, "That's my toy!" A possible response, "That's true. Does it seem right or wrong for you to share it with your sister, at least for now?" The same principle applies when expressing your opinion, whether on politics or why you've chosen a particular movie for the family to watch. Give a solid reason, or create an opportunity for learning. For example, let's say your child asks, "Why do you hate President Trump so much?" In response, the two of you might watch a brief YouTube of one of his speeches and then ask, "Well, what do you think?" The third and final core principle of good parenting is build intrinsic motivation. That is not rewards and punishment, which is extrinsic, but internal because you feel it's the right thing to do. The previous principle that I talked about, that is reasoning with your child but without long lectures, is going to build intrinsic motivation to behave wisely. But of course, no one's perfect, so your child's going to sometimes misbehave. It is helpful to have this kind of list of possible responses ready. And I list them kind of in increasing order of, intrusiveness. First, sometimes you just ignore things. Not everything is worth a battle. 2, what I call the school marm look. Sometimes a look is better than a lecture, like when your child knows why you're unhappy, that look can gain compliance without you having to expend energy on a lecture, which may only yield defensiveness. 3rd, a brief explanation. For example, even if a number of nights in a row we just make small talk at family dinner, having it nightly ensures there's a time we can count on where we can tell and ask each other everything. Invoking guilt. I'm going to stay with the previous example. Let's say your child refuses to come to the dinner table and says, "Mom, I'm in the middle of this amazing video game." Possible response, "You're a big boy now, and you know why it's important we have family dinner. I'm a little disappointed having to debate this with you again." I should mention that guilt invocation, invoking of guilt, has an undeservedly bad reputation. Of course, a relentless barrage of denigration is inappropriate, but in small doses, invoking guilt can yield that valuable intrinsic sense of right and wrong. Contrast that with the parent who attempts to gain compliance with rewards and punishments. When a child with insufficient intrinsic motivation is away, like at school, with friends, in college, that kid is more likely to make poor choices. And the 5th of these kind of lines of defense against misbehavior, or approaches to responses to misbehavior, are rewards and punishments. With some kids, reasoning and invoking guilt are insufficient to yield even moderately good behavior. Such kids often need firm limits with rewards and punishments for violations. For example, you might say, "Well, you can watch TV only after you finish your homework and it's done well." I want to say a word about corporal punishment. Nearly every expert agrees that hitting your child is an absolute no-no. It's likely to yield short-term compliance, yeah, but long-term resentment and desire to rebel against you when away from your watchful eye and your belt. That biblical phrase, "spare the rod, spoil the child," flies in the face of nearly every authority, as well as defying common sense. Except in the extreme, parenting is less central to how your kids turn out than most people believe. We are learning that ever more of who we are is under genetic control. And Judith Rich Harris's research found that peers are more influential than parents. Plus, there is also the influence of school and neighborhood. Yes, you matter, but good enough parenting is good enough. Aim to follow the three principles. That is, err toward positivity, reason but minimize lecturing, and build intrinsic motivation. And even if you frequently err, you'll likely have a child that you can be proud of. In any event, I thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. I welcome your thumbs up, accept your thumbs down, look forward to your comments, and love it if you hit the share button below and share on your social media so that my efforts have more impact. And I'm flattered if you subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.